Go. This is a step I've had a lot of questions about. This is when it comes down to shaping. This is how you carve the foam down to the shape you want. This is a hull that one of my daughters started and lost interest. She's actually ended up building a boat and finishing it out of plywood, and she's happy with that as much as I'm not, because I know the maintenance that's involved. You notice she's kind of made her sides a lot more steep, straight up and down than I normally do. But hey, you know, that's the great thing about a foam kayak or a Sawfish. You finish it however you want. Now this, I can show you a few things about this. Notice the long bow on this. That is probably because she didn't go as wide with the sides as she probably should have. It's also a function of this is built to the original plan. If you're one of the people who were on board with this or read anything about it back when I first put the plan out, I had a different idea about how to do the bow, and it's really obvious when you get right there. Originally the side pieces and the bow pieces were separate, and you spliced them together. You can kind of see right here, you can't really see it, but underneath that there's this thing that we used to call the bird's mouth or the dovetail. And the bow was made as a stack of V-shaped pieces, and then the sides were glued on, and we come up with better is basically what's happened. Other people figured it out. I figured it out about the same time. And the way we do it now is a million times better, and you don't even want to know how the original one was done. But this was built using the original way because it's probably been sitting for over a year now, maybe two. It's probably the last one I know of that was built using the old idea. Some of the things to do is go around and, like, these are bamboo skewers that are pinning the layers together, but they're sticking out. That's going to be a problem when you hit them with the grinder, because it's going to vibrate them and it's going to pick a big chunk out in the foam. So the trick, well, not trick, but what the thing to do is get yourself one of these handy dandy, it's a flush cutter. They've cut flush on the tip. I get them Harbor Freight, I don't know, $3, something like that. You can get them other places, but you're not going to get them with a lifetime warranty. I think I probably warranted one so far at Harbor Freight. But there you go. You just cut the ends of those bamboo skewers off any place that they're going to hit, and you can hear the difference when you hit one. And when you do that, stop and cut it off, because it's going to cause you problems if you don't. So I'm going to show you now the way that it goes as far as planing this down, or shaping the hull, as I call it. How you get the boat-shaped object out of this very blocky stack of foam strips. So the tool that I use is this is Bosch. I just happened to get it at a good sale. But Harbor Freight sells a cheap one that actually works just fine. The only modification you probably have to do, if you notice right here, I put it's just window screen and some Scotch tape. Just because the foam will get in the motor and it'll melt when it gets hot, and it'll stink, and it could hurt the motor, I don't even know. So just quickly tape that on, no big deal, keeps the foam out. If it builds up, blow it off and it's gone. So this is the way to do the hull. Now you'll notice I'm going to hold it in shape like that. That's the angle, more or less, that I want. And once again, I've got a bamboo skewer. Notice the angle holding the planer at. That's the angle I want the foam at least to start at. This is where you kind of eyeball. If you want to look at symmetry, step back, look at the boat in the center, and just see how one side looks compared to the other. At one point we're going to go back and we're going to make a measure off of each side, and just make sure that things are coming out square, symmetrical, the way we'd like. I mean, these will go perfectly fine if they're not symmetrical, but it looks nicer. And you'll notice it quickly puts an angle, and then you just pick that and you carry that down to the next one. Once again, another bamboo skewer's got to be popped out. This is another advantage to not having this join in the middle. The join required a lot of bamboo skewers that the new design does not deal with. Now you can start to see more of that hull shape that I'm looking for emerging. Planer is really good because it'll knock off the high points and level them off with everything else. Obviously we got some issues, the side of the boat waves in and out. It's not the horriblest thing in the world, because if anything comes out wrong, just slop another piece of foam in there, profile it off, and take care of it. Unlike a piece of plywood where splicing in a new repair part is a real problem. This is not. And as you can see here, there's still a lot of high spots, low spots, waviness. Different. If you watch as I go, they'll disappear. So just keep watching, and in a little while, all that will smooth out, and that's the beauty of it. Makes it real easy for anybody, even a complete amateur, to do it. Here we are, a few passes later. You can see some of those divots starting to disappear. You can see more of the, divots, dimples, just defects, whatever you want to call them, irregularities. Doesn't matter how bad you cut this. It can be continued, built, finished, and once it's wrapped, no one will ever know what happened underneath. And the next one will be even better. This, like I said, is my daughter's first foam one. The way hers were cut and stacked weren't perfect, but it's working, as you can see. And once again, as you look, you can see more of the blockiness, the steps, the edges, divots. All that is disappearing as we smooth out. And like I said, if we end up too thin, chop on a piece, glue it in with more Gorilla Glue, profile it off again. There's so much you can do with this. If you saw the pictures that I show in the Instructable, I actually took two 8-foot long Sawfish kayaks that I built for my older two when they were little, and they enjoyed them, they had fun with them, but an 8-foot kayak, I'll tell you, if you're planning on building one for your kids, don't. An 8-foot kayak is really slow. If you're, actually it's a mathematical formula, it's called hull speed, and hull speed will make the length of the boat the biggest issue in how fast it can go. And an 8-foot boat can't go as fast as a 10-foot boat, or a 12-foot boat, or a 14. I mean, you hit a maximum number based on the strength of the paddler. But at a certain point, around 8 or 10, you start to slow down a lot. And if you're towing one, it feels like you're pulling an anchor behind you that's catching on everything. So don't do it. Build yourself a Sawfish 12 or 14. Make the extra long cockpit the way I show now. And put another seat with your kid ahead of you or behind you paddling. You'll be so much happier. They'll be so much happier. You won't have to wait for them when they get tired, when they stop to get a drink, when they want to take a nap. There's no tow ropes to deal with. There's not a second boat. And then when you want to go by yourself, you've got the boat that you need. But yeah, I took those two 8-footers, I cut them in half right here in the middle and stretched them out. Just a straight, it's called the plug. I just made a straight piece in the middle, made them into 14 footers. And each kid now paddles double, and they love it. And the younger ones that aren't as strong, they're happy because they still get to paddle, they still get to go along. And the older ones don't feel as much like somebody's there slowing them down. They can go faster than my wife and I sometimes now. So it's actually a much better way to do it. And that's what I say, it is so infinite, you can change it so much. If someday I want to change those 14 footers back to, let's say, 12 footers or 10 footers, just chop a piece out of the middle, glue them back together, and I got it. It doesnn't matter. I could make a 30 footer if I wanted to. And it would work, because that's how flexible foam is, and that's what's great. And like I said, even if it's your first time building it, look how easy it is to shape out what you want. So as you can see, I've got, see it better if you look down than I do. I've got some little steps like this one right here. And those are what I'm trying to make disappear at this point. I'm trying to get a smooth surface all the way up and down that doesn't have those little steps in it. Defects like this, where you can see it dimples inward, I might just leave that because I make a little counter bevel on the top edge. And that might actually take that in just fine. But now, as you see, I've got to do the stern, and I've got to maintain some symmetry with the other side. So there's going to be a little bit more taken off right here, but it's easy to come along. And one more thing I want to mention, when you do the bow, see how I'm bringing these right down to a point? That's good, but don't make a sharp edge on your bow. If you've noticed on some of the other ones I've done, I try and make a 2-inch flat run right down the bow here. I'll take the planer and go straight up like this, just because if you have a sharp edge like this, even wrapped with the poor man's fiberglass, and you ding it, it has no strength and it will just mush, and now you've got a dibble, a dog tooth, whatever you want to call it. You've got a defect in your nice smooth thing. If you make it a 2-inch flat and then you round it off just a little, but leave it about 2 inches, it will stand up to so much, and it really doesn't matter in the water. Believe it or not, it'll plow right through the waves, and it doesn't go any slower, and it looks a lot nicer. So here's the bow, the way that I do it. So now if you look at that, obviously, oh my word, that looks so hideous, but notice there's still lands, there's steps, there's edges here. So I'm going to take that down too, and you just keep working with it. There's enough foam in this. This is pretty solid. You're not going to run out of foam for a while. So take it down, get the angles and shape that you're looking for, And once again, like I said, check both sides, look for symmetry. As you notice right now, one side's pretty vertical on this boat, one side's pretty rounded. I'd like to make this right-hand side rounded like the left, but that may not be possible. I've got to now flip it over, look inside, see which I have more of on foam, if it's at the top or the bottom of the boat. And I'm going to have to make one side match the other, just because nobody wants to have a crooked, ugly boat. It's all about aesthetics. So now moving back to the stern, as I showed you before, all the edges. I'm going to take those down and then we'll show you what that looks like. So once again, you can see as I've worked this side is really straight. This side has got a lot more bevel. Now I'm working the stern. Now symmetry I'm going to work on. Shape I've got to work on. Divots like that one right there, I've got to work on that. And then further up where you can see where the sun is just shining on those big flat areas. Gonna have to work on all of that, but like I said, the beauty of foam, it can be reshaped. You could replace it if you like. There's nothing totally wrong. It can all be saved. And those nagging things, you're gonna keep running into skewers, which is why I suggest whenever something is finished cured, you don't need them pinning you together anymore. Grab onto them and see if they'll just pull out of the hull, and then you won't be dealing with them anymore. You could even reuse them for the next project. Some of them will come, some won't, as you can see.